Let's chat about security. I'm going to give you some deployment tips for Diver Platform, as well as talk about software features, current and future, that can help. When you think about information security, there are three areas of concern: making sure that only the right users see the data they're allowed to see, making sure that no one can change data they're not allowed to change, and of course, making sure the service is actually available to be used. You also have to consider, what threats are you worried about? Two common scenarios to consider are inappropriate access and break-ins. So for inappropriate access, that could be because you've misconfigured access rules. It could be that someone was given access to the system who shouldn't have it or should no longer have it. For example, they left the company. Break-ins are more the nefarious attacker scenarios where someone's trying passwords repeatedly or is exploiting a vulnerability in some software component to get access they should not have. What do we do about these things? Well, universally, your IT group, I'm sure, knows about all these things. You've got to apply security updates to your servers. That means no Windows Server 2012, because that's beyond the end of life and there are no security updates, as an example. But it also means things like Tomcat 7, which we originally deployed, is also end of life. So you need to upgrade that. And our newest installer for 7.0 and 7.1 will take care of that for you. Always limit your attack surface, which just means if someone doesn't need a service, don't expose it to the internet. So if you have ProDiver users on the internet, great. But if you don't, maybe Diveline doesn't have to be visible to the internet. Just in general, you should have a robust information security policy. Everyone should have that. Specifically for Diver Platform, some tips: don't run our services with admin privileges. The installer encourages you to not do this. Follow that encouragement. Pay attention to who has access to your system periodically. This can be looking at the list of users in Workbench, or it could be using SiteStats or DIAdmin, two very powerful packages from our support team that let you keep an eye on what's going on in your system. And finally, always make sure your access rules are correct. Test them with proxy logon. And if you're going to make changes, do that endeavor test first before you go live. As far as software features that help you that are already built in today, you've got two ways of doing authentication, really. You've got centralized authentication, where some other party like Active Directory is in charge of the rules. That's great for plugging into your organization's policies, one place to disable user or reset their password. It's not always possible, though. You may have external users coming in from other companies that need to have access. And in that case, Diveline is going to be in charge of the passwords. But we've got policy features too: complexity, account lockout, password reset, you name it. You can also even control idle session timeout. There are other features too to consider, though. As far as limiting who can do what, if you want to have people using Workbench to do project development, they don't have to be full administrators. They can just work in their project and not be able to break anything else by accident. We have plenty of capabilities for access and audit rules, as shown here. You can do that on a role-based access rather than individual users, just for your sanity and maintenance. And finally, we've got great logging, including a newer feature, which is logging configuration changes. You've got a rolling history of who's been doing what. Now, in the future, we've got more features to further strengthen security of the product. Automatically expiring accounts is one. This could be a fixed date. For example, you're going to give access to one of our consultants for 90 days. Or you've got somebody testing out a site for 30 days, and after that, they're gone. But we also are going to have the ability to just have account be disabled automatically due to inactivity. If someone hasn't logged in for 90 days, better turn it off. Maybe they left the company and it was left turned on. In any case, it closes that door. We'll also be adding cloud authentication. So a lot of people are moving to Azure Active Directory and other services like that. So we're going to make it possible to hook into that very easily. And we're going to also do two-factor authentication. Now, Azure AD does have that feature, but not everyone's going to be able to use Azure AD. We want to have it anyway, built into Diveline directly and easily. That means using services such as Google Authenticator, which does TOTP. There are other apps that do it as well. Duo Security is another company that produces a nice two-factor application, and hardware tokens. We use YubiKeys quite a bit on our teams, and that is nice because it'll allow us to do FIDO2, which is a standard for doing both two-factor and passwordless authentication. So look forward to these features coming out this fall. Many of these are already in use in our cloud environment, and we're looking forward to bringing them to everyone. Thanks.